From Ticker, this is Fearless with Dr. Steve Enticott.
Welcome to Fearless with Dr. Steve, and this is a show all about overcoming fear and helping us all to fear less. The first thing to do when you want to overcome fear is to admit you have fear. Acknowledging fear in fearful times in particular is a character strength and the first step to overcoming fear, and that's what this show is all about. This show is all about helping you overcome some fear and instill a bit of hope. And as we commence on Melbourne Lockdown 4, whether you're in Melbourne or watching it around Australia or the world, there is a period of fear going on, and we're really going to try and push out the hope aspect of it as well. Well, Ticker, and this is why I love being on Ticker TV. Ticker TV is a station of hope because we don't need to sell fear to survive like a lot of other TV networks and newspapers are doing. We clearly see it. You turn on the TV, you pick up the paper, every headline's a fear-based headline. Well, we're supported by sponsors, so we don't need the advertising revenue. And we're not controlled by governments either. You know, we're not hanging out to get a grant to keep going. And today on Fearless, along with Craig Schultz, we're going to do our best to renew hope in a time of frustration and anger and fear, of course. And that's what this show is all about. It's Fearless. I've got a couple of inspirational quotes for you. So if you're down in the dumps at the moment, if you are feeling a bit lost for purpose, and that's generally one of the reasons we're down in the dumps, here's a great quote I read this morning from Frederick Boschner, and it says, "Your vocation in life is where your greatest joy meets the world's greatest need." And I'm going to talk to Craig about that in a moment because he's a bit of an expert on creating businesses and creating hope and creating financial security and really doing his vocation justice, what he loves to do. So we're going to talk about him in a moment. But I'm just going to replay something from June that we had on Ticker TV on Fearless on how to start up a business in 8 easy steps. So I want you to use this period of time to really think about what you want to do. This is your time to shine. This is a time to start up a business. Let's go to that quick clip now. Hope. I've had a lot of people recently, more so in this week as well, talking about starting a new business. They're starting to realise that a lot of those jobs post-September are not going to be there, and they're starting to look towards what they can do in the future. So I've done it in the past, but I'm going to give you 8 quick steps on how to be an entrepreneur, how to start a business and be 100% successful every time, and you may not need that job that might not be coming back once JobKeeper runs out. Tip number 1, I've written it down because I don't want to get it wrong. Tip number 1, talents. Define your talents, put them into purpose. My book, The Man with a Plan, will talk to you about that. But success is the intersection of 2 talents driven by purpose. So understand what your talents are, understand what your purpose are, and then you know where you should be directing yourself from a business point of view. Identify problems. This is a tight market out there. Good ideas don't cut it. You've got to find people with problems, know what their problems are, and provide a doable solution. It's easy to come up with all these wonderful solutions, but if they don't work or they're not easy to implement, they're not going to fly from a commercial point of view. So find the doable solutions is number 3. Number 4, 1-page business plan. Send it to me if you want me to review it. Find me on social media, easy enough to find. 1 page, never any more. You'll never read the second page anyway. 1-page business plan. Number 5, go out and get that first sale. Why? It's a sale. That means you've got a real business, not just an idea. Number 6, scale the sale. We get more sales. Number 7, we need to consider your structures, family trust, companies, sole trader, all those sorts of things. And the final one, exit. I don't believe there's going to be as much profit in the system going forward. My view is for the future, where we're going to make our profit and return from is in capital value. So starting up a business with an exit strategy to sell it in 5 years' time is where you're going to start to make your monies. Well, how about that for a bit of a rev up? Now, that really is going to introduce us into the second part of the show. But first, I'm going to introduce Craig Schultz. He's a man who's going to talk to us about his one-shot movement, a book he's writing. He had suffered tragedy in his life, and he's used tragedy as a way of overcoming fear. Craig, how are you?
Good, Steve. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, thanks for coming on to Fearless. It obviously is very fearful times at the moment for a lot of people around Victoria and around Australia and around the world. So I'm really proud and happy to have you on for this episode. What we want to talk about to open up the show is your one-shot movement. Where's this come from?
Look, I guess it's been inspired from challenge and adversity that my wife and I went through about 6 years ago on the 24th of January 2014, where life was good, business was good, family was good, and my wife and I were just set to become new parents. And Going in to just get a routine checkup towards the end of the pregnancy, we were told that there's no heartbeat, and that changed my whole perspective on life. Going through that experience, and my whole philosophy, and I said in the eulogy that I would inspire people to understand that they've got one shot at life. Go out there and give it your best shot, and that's sort of where the one shot movement stems from.
Well, I can't even begin to understand. I mean, that's got to be the greatest tragedy of all time. You're expectant, you're hopeful, you're looking forward to it, you've bought the baby clothes and all those sorts of things, and all of a sudden you've just been absolutely floored. I have no idea how you survived that, but what I'm really happy to hear is that you're actually using that pain and suffering, that tragedy, to help other people overcome fear. What are you seeing in people at the moment? Are you seeing fear that is really, really deep and unsettling? Or are you seeing senses of hope, and how are you helping people get through that?
Look, I think everyone's different in the current economic climate, but one thing that going through that experience there, I was forced to go through it in a way where there wasn't a choice. Like you said, there's no heartbeat. Your wife will have to deliver this baby. So whether you want to go and face your fear or not, I was actually forced into doing that, and I just had to make some decisions on how I was going to come through that situation. If I transfer over into today's economic climate, there's genuine fear out there. Like, as we do this interview, we've just started our stage 4 lockdown. People's jobs are uncertain. People's businesses are shut. There is a genuine sense of fear. And I always think that, you have to always look at things glass half full, not empty. And hope is something that does sit in the glass half full bucket. So you do have to just have that mindset, that resilience to be able to move forward every step, every single day.
And how do we develop that mindset? What are the things that we need to be doing to look on our own minds and mindset and go, well, how do we get through every day? And what are you doing to get through every day at the moment, Craig?
For me personally, I really don't want to be all consumed by, the media. I saw in your intro to the show, To Ticker TV, the media can really control and, really, mind control you in a way and put you into a really bad state. But for me, I've always been a really big, heavy advocate of growing and evolving, and that's listening to really positive information, through books, audiobooks, podcasts. I always listen to inspiring content, and the people that I hang around and support, it's important to have those networks of people around you to really, be that sounding board, and if they're looking through the lens of glass half full, not empty as well, you can sort of bounce off each other. But it's really important to be open, to communicate, and just support each other through the uncertainty so we can then navigate our way through the fog together.
Yeah, and I really love what you've done there. You've hit on a really few key points. The number one thing I've been doing as a chaplain, as an advisor, as a friend or whatever I've been telling people, stop looking at the TV, because so many people there are sitting at The Age or news.com or whatever it might be, refreshing every 5 minutes to see what news stories come up. And if you start to think about it logically, these journalists are writing stories regularly to keep content going up to sell advertising revenue to you. So there has to be an element of fear, and there has to be an element of keeping us hooked in. But that is actually dragging us all down. You have to pull yourself away from the negative news. One client I spoke to this week, he had a really good technique involved, and he says, I only watch the press conference and then I tune off for the rest of the day. I don't want to know about all the speculation and fear mongering. So I think it's important to stay informed, but not to get too far hooked into it. But it was a second part of your comments that I really, really loved. And I've been trying to tell people as well, especially if you're outside of Melbourne, especially if you're outside of Victoria, now's your time to look out for each other. People in Melbourne, people in Victoria, they're really struggling. Ring a Vic, pick up a phone, send them an email, do whatever you need to do to keep in contact with people in Victoria, because they are struggling down here, and we really do need to be reaching out to each other. What else can we be doing, Craig? What about exercise? Keep moving?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, at the moment we're in lockdown, we've got limitations around that, but I'm real big. I guess I spent 12 years as a personal trainer in the fitness industry, so I'm a massive advocate of getting out there, moving, getting fresh air, getting vitamin D. But I guess over the last, since we lost Ethan, stillborn, I really focused a lot about meditation, and I feel that meditation is a really, really powerful technique. Just that stillness, that being, I guess, by yourself, where you've got all that clutter and all that fog up in the brain that's confusing you. If you can start, a basic form of guided meditation or something like that.
Yeah, and we don't have to take people through the how to meditate, because they can just Google how to meditate. And I think what you just said there was really important, that even when you're trying to get yourself into a meditative state, you're never going to become monk and trance-like, but it's just that trying to stop that noise in your head, to just stop it. But if you're trying to get into a period of calmness and the noise keeps coming, just acknowledge it. That's just noise that's coming, and then put it aside and keep trying to go back into that calm state. And over a period of time, the noise starts to slow down, and you start to get a fresh perspective.
Yeah,
fair enough?
Totally.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I think the second part of the show that we're going to talk about after the break in a few minutes' time, it's about hope. It's about, yes, we're struggling at the moment. No matter where we are, we have to keep our horizons tight, because we don't know what's going to happen next week. We don't know what's going to happen this afternoon sometimes. So we have to keep our horizons close, but we have to have hope. We have to have something that's beyond the current set of circumstances that we're working towards, or that we're looking forward to into the future. What role do you think hope plays in all this, Craig?
Look, I think it's really important, because you're either growing or dying effectively. And I think if you're out there throwing yourself out into the equation to evolve as a person, to grow, to live with passion and purpose, you do have hope. You've got that anchor to work towards. And I think hope is a really good word to use in this situation.
Yeah, and I really think it is. And it doesn't matter what it is. It can be anything like, believe it or not, I've just done, over the last few months, I've done my certificate for in marriage celebrancy, because as a chaplain, people ask me, can you marry me? And I thought, well, I better be prepared for that and say, yes, I can. And I'm thinking, hang on, I'm busy. I run an accounting practice. I've got financial services and all that sort of thing going on in an economic tsunami. But it was just to be able to take your mind away from something that you're doing all day, every day, that you're immersed in, and learn something new as well. Take on that challenge to just learn something. You don't have to do anything about it, just learn about it. What about learning, Craig? What sort of learning are you doing at the moment?
At the moment, I probably consume 3 hours a day of different podcasts around skill development, personal growth, just inspiration and education-based stuff, really, just to fuel the mind.
I tell you what, mate, if you were sitting in the studio, no one's allowed to sit in the studio at the moment, which is a bit depressive in itself. I'd be reaching through reaching over and hugging you. So you're probably lucky you're safe there, because you're hitting every right note here. Education, just learning, get that positive content going that's going to keep you growing. You may never use these skills, but it just keeps you growing, and all growing is good. All growth is good, because it might be transferable into something else into the future. Fair call?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm a big believer in that. And I've been doing that for 20 years. When I started my first business, I had zero idea about business. I was 21. I used to say to people, what I lacked in business skills, I just made up for effort, action, desire to learn those skills, surround myself with the right people, get a good mentor, get a good advisor around me, and the rest is history. So I'm a big advocate for that.
All right, well, you've just actually given me the perfect throw, and I'm going to throw to my next section, which is questions to Dr. Steve, but we're going to go back to Craig straight after it, because he's got a very exciting story, going into the business at the age of 21 and throwing away very secure employment as an engineer, and pulling the pin and going into business has been a huge success, and he's still a huge success going forward. So that's our very next segment. But right now, as I always say, my favourite segment, questions to Dr. Steve. So I've been getting lots of questions this week, as you can possibly imagine. Anyone in the accounting industry is getting questions from everywhere. A lot of things we don't know the answers for, but these ones I did know the answers for. And it's a tie into what we've been talking about at the start of this show and what we're going to talk about next, about starting businesses. So questions to Dr. Steve this week is, what 3 things do I need to start my business? So we're thinking positively. We're in a period of economic slowdown. Wherever we are in Australia, people should be thinking about starting up a small business. So the 3 things you need to do to start up a small business from an accounting and a taxation point of view, don't tell anyone in my industry, but it's actually really easy. I'm going to give you all the secrets now. You don't need to go speak to an accountant or a lawyer or whatever. So the first thing you need to do is start up a business, is get an ABN number, an Australian business number. Very easy to do. You can pay an accountant to do it, or you can just jump online, to the ATO website there and apply for an ABN number. Click a few buttons and you will have an Australian business number straight away. Effectively, you're in business at that point. The second thing you need to be a business, everyone knows it, you need a website of some sort or a social media presence of some sort, a quick Facebook page, a very basic website from GoDaddy or wherever you want to get one from. Very cheap, very easy to get a domain name. Make sure your emails are hooked to your domain name so you look credible, you are a business. And the third and final thing you need to do, and this is where you do need to speak to an advisor of some sort, is you've got to assess risk. Going into business always assume there will be risk. Now, if you're supplying a product, there's product risk. If you're supplying food, there's food risk. If you're supplying a supplement, there's supplement risk. No matter what you're doing, if you're doing a service and you have an accident, you have to assess risk. Most of that risk will be covered off by taking an insurance policy out, a liability policy of some sort, but there's also structure risks we might want to talk about as well, that activity is a little bit out there, or there is a higher amount of risk with that, high risk, high return usually too. So it's not all bad. We might need to look at a company structure. So three things you need. Australian business number, very easy. You can do it yourself. Website, again, very easy. You can do it yourself, but always speak to your advisors about risk whenever you're starting up a business. It is very important. Well, they're the questions to Dr. Steve. Now, we'll go back to Craig Schultz. We'll stop talking about the one-shot movement and we'll move into starting up a business. But I want to know a little bit about your history, Craig. You started up a business at the age of 21.
Yeah, just the short story is I went down the traditional path, got an education, got a good job.
Engineer.
I was an engineer, worked in that profession for 2 years and fired my boss age 21 to follow my dreams and passion. And that was the fitness industry, health and fitness industry. So I started my first business age 21, which was a fitness club.
What did mum and dad say when you said, I've done all these years of engineering study and I'm quitting that to go start my own business? How'd they cope?
Look, growing up in my family environment, I had a beautiful, loving family, but I lived in a small mining town, so I had to leave home when I was 15. So I've always been ambitious, but I would say that my parents were quite conservative. So when I had a good job and that security and the safety net around me, they were saying, Craig, you've got a good job. Everyone would love your job. You should stay in it. You're getting paid well. You're secure. Going into the unknown is dangerous.
So why? Why did you leave?
Look, I guess I have always been a thinker where I've always wanted to never trade time for money. So even when I was in that business, I was always looking at little projects like being a personal trainer. When I was in that job, to earn extra money, so I wasn't ever trading time for money. And I wanted to control my own destiny from a very, very young age, and that's really the driver.
And you did too. You not only left a job, you left the state you were born in and you headed over to South Australia. How did you go moving state and starting businesses from there?
Yeah, that was, again, it was another conversation with my parents, which was all around, I guess, protection. I was a reasonably talented Aussie rules footballer, and my football coach in Tassie said, you should challenge yourself at a higher level. And the club asked me to come over there, and I packed my car up with everything I owned and jumped on the boat and took the plunge. And that's sort of how I ended up in South Australia.
Yeah, which football team was that?
They were called Woodville West Torrens in the SANFL.
Yeah, well done. Yeah, excellent. I mean, it's a very high level of football. So you started up a business in fitness industry there, and you opened up multiple studios, and that was going very, very well. And you challenged yourself once again by selling out.
Yeah, that story there was, again, another, I guess, similar time to this. It was the global financial crisis, and owning a bricks and mortar business became challenging. Mm-hmm. I was looked as a discretionary spend, so my loving gym clients were leaving. There was all sorts of challenges like we're facing right now, and I just, as that critical thinker, that creative mind, just started looking for opportunities to do online. So I said I don't want to be stuck in one fixed business anymore, and moved into still the same niche, health and wellness and fitness, but scaling and selling nutritional supplements all around the world. And then I was doing that well at that. I ended up selling my 5 fitness clubs.
And moved state again into Melbourne.
Yes, that's right. So I did have my 5 fitness clubs in Melbourne, but I did make a big decision because when I had my first business, I was highly profitable. I was Fitness Professional of the Year in South Australia. I was doing really, really well. And people again said, Craig, you've got a good business. You can choose when you work and when you don't. And the franchisor of that company said, Craig, we want to expand interstate. We want you to master franchise. So I set up 22 franchises and owned 5 myself.
Yeah, unbelievable. Well done. I just want to go back and touch on a point you just raised there too, that you were doing this business in the global financial crisis, and I'm always looking at people in the eye, and I'll look down the camera right now and I'll say the same thing. Whenever people are going through adversity, I'll look at them and I say, you're not special. And it's a great reminder that this is not unusual. In my time, and I'm rapidly becoming a dinosaur, if you like, although I still think I'm a young fella. I've lived through recessions, I've lived through Asian meltdown crises, the year 2000 bug, so to speak, and the GFC. This is a normal business cycle, boom and bust, boom and bust. We're into a bust cycle. So don't feel special, feel this is normal. Okay, but what am I going to do with this new normal and where am I going to take it from there?
Yeah, and for me at that point in time, it was about innovating and adopting world's best practice. The first social media platforms are really coming out and making play, and internet tools and your first smartphone and these sort of technologies allowed you to play a bigger game. And it didn't just happen. I still had 5 gyms. I was doing that. I was getting up 10 to 5 in the morning, getting home at 8 o'clock at night. Then I was working on my products business behind the scenes from sort of 8 to 11. Then I'd be up at 10 to 5. I did that for 3 years. So the important takeaway from that is, you have to do the work, and that's really important.
Yeah, but did you actually, and this is a common thing I find in businesses and myself whenever I start up a business, you work hard and you work long, but it never feels like work. Because you're actually really engaged in what you're doing, and you're in track with your purpose and the challenge and all those sorts of things, that you might be working 70 hours a week, but you're loving every minute of it. Was that fair to say for you?
100%. And I was working hard, but I could my vision of where I wanted to go, and I wanted to just exit those businesses to be able to work from home, which I do now and have done well. And another big passion of mine was to travel the world and see what the world had to offer, and I was able to travel to over 120 different cities around the world and have some incredible, what you would describe as bucket experiences, and that was what I was working towards. So those hard times when I was working 15, 16 hours a day, there was a reason to keep me moving forward every step of the way.
That's right, and there's no excuses at the moment. We should be all working pretty hard because we can't go travel and we can't do all the things we want to be doing. So now's our opportunity, our wonderful opportunities. I keep reminding people, put the hard yards in. I'm feeling blessed. I'm working pretty hard at the moment. My wife and I reminded ourselves last night when we were sitting there whinging, having a wine, thinking about how hard we're working, that 75% of people in Melbourne aren't working at all, or not working very hard at all at the moment. So it is a bit of a blessing. So this is what I wanted this show to be about, and that's why I played that introduction at the start. This is a good opportunity to start up a business. Craig's a great example of it. He has done it over and over again, and he's teaching others how to do it with his new book too as well coming out. So I wanted to touch on those first 2 points. Those first 2 points of that video I just showed worked on talents. Now's a good opportunity to understand what your talents are. Write a list of all the things you're good at and all the things that you like to do for fun. Reorder that in a list of the things you love to do the most right up the top. And they're the things that are going to become your purpose. And start to look for problems. When you know what you're good at, when you know what you like to do for fun, start to look around those industries. Start asking questions, what problems are in those industries, and start to bring your talent and passion to solving those problems. Is that a fair process, Craig? What are you thinking there?
Yeah, look, I 100% agree with everything you said there. That video sums it up very well. But I think most people's, they've just got to go from a consumer into a creator. And that's what, if you fail or you don't fail, too many people are like constantly learning and not actually putting stuff into action. So if you do have an idea, just give it a go.
That's right. And it just sounds to me, hearing you talking today with us very beautifully, that you're driven pretty strongly by that fear of regret. That nursing home theory where you don't want to get to the end of your life and go, why didn't I have a grow? Is that a fair call?
Yeah, 100%. And that's why the title of my book's got, you've got one shot, go out there and give it your best shot, whatever it is for you. My son didn't get one heartbeat on this beautiful planet Earth. You're in the game. So what have you got to worry about? So live life with passion and purpose with no regrets.
I'd argue that because Ethan's obviously inspiring others along too. So he's still there helping away. I've got a bit of a saying I wanted to read that I discussed earlier with Craig, and this pretty much sums up his interview today and what we've been talking about as well. To fail is to learn. To fail is to grow. To not fail is regret. How does that sound, Craig?
100% agree with that. And just, we are in uncertain times, and the only thing I can say to people is go and create certainty in your life. And that may be the time. And I do write in the book, things don't happen to you, they happen for you. You may be put into that position where you go on and create your own legacy and your dreams, and this circumstance may be happening for you.
Oh, I really like that. That's a really good way of summing it up. To create certainty in uncertain times is a very highly desirable service. So if you can start to bring those skills into a service for other people, then you're going to have a very successful problem-solving business right there. How do we find you on social media, Craig?
Just look me up, my name, just Craig Schultz. My website, where a lot of my podcasts on my that are on my website as well. Provide a lot of content. I blog there. A lot of entrepreneurship. I've interviewed 100 of the biggest entrepreneurs in the world. So if you're into podcasting, I've interviewed the likes of Dr. John DeMartini, Jack Delosa, many top level entrepreneurs that give amazing insights. And if you go to craigschultz.com, you'll find all that there. It's all free. But yeah, same on social media, just really my name. LinkedIn and Facebook are where I'm probably most active.
Well, mate, you've been an absolute pleasure to have on the show. And again, I'll say it again, if you're here, I'd probably be hugging you. Just thank you for the work you're doing. And obviously that's come out of the tragedies in part that you've faced. And you're actually turning that fear into an absolute way of overcoming current day fears that we've got at the moment. So I think, thank you for your time. And I do encourage people to look up Craig and look up at the excellent work he's doing. Look, I've got to wrap up the show for today. And I just really wanted to remind people that this is an absolute marvellous opportunity, no matter where you are in Australia, no matter where you are in the world, especially if you are in Melbourne. If you're in Melbourne at the time and you're underutilised, or anywhere in the world that's underutilised, this is a time, as Craig Schultz said, this is a time to start to create certainty in an uncertain future. We know the job market's going to be uncertain. We know we're in a recession. We know things are going to be different in 2 years' time. What a wonderful opportunity. We have a wonderful opportunity to use our downtime to create new certainty. And in my mind, that's going to be start a business. Thanks for watching Fearless. We'll see you next week.
There are now more ways to watch Ticker. Download our apps for Apple and Android devices. We're live on Twitter and YouTube Live. And you can catch us on Amazon Alexa and Google Home. Head to the Ticker website for more.